Compression is one of the most difficult things to understand when first learning how to mix vocals. There's a lot of new words, there's a lot of knobs to play with, and just concepts that are not the most simple to kind of get through your head when you're first learning. Now the first thing I want to do for you guys is explain what the hell is compression. I feel like, you know, when you're first learning how to mix, you hear about you have to EQ your vocals, you have to compress your vocals, and you don't really understand what's what, or what the hell's the purpose of each of those two things. Now real quick, I've already done a tutorial on EQing vocals, so if you want to check that out, you can go up here. It's a video I did a little while ago, but same stuff I said there pretty much stands now. So now compression is this, and I'm going to speak about it mostly in the context of vocal recording, but this works with all instruments really. When someone's recording their vocals, usually the volume of their voice goes up and down and up and down. During singing or rapping, you might whisper a little bit, you might then get really loud. Now when you're listening to music on your headphones and an artist goes from whispering to really loud, you don't ever have to like try to listen closer or anything. The level of the recording stays the same, and that's because of compression. And by the way, I'm trying to explain this in the most kind of for dummies way possible, because that's the way I would have wanted it explained to me when I was learning what the hell compression was. So like I said, very often when you see a vocal recording and you see the region of that vocal recording with the whole waveform, you'll see that waveform is very low, and then it's very high, it's very low, it's very high. What compression does is it compresses everything together so that everything is as close to the same volume as possible. Now the thing about compressors is that they're awesome, but if you overdo it, it doesn't sound good. So you don't want to push the vocal too tight, because it takes away some of the emotion and the feeling from the recording. So you want to make sure that you compress in a way that also allows for there to still be some dynamic motion, some up and down of the volume. So you want there to be some semblance of like movement in terms of volume, but not like super crushed where everything sounds really close and kind of muffled. And also, once you train your ear well enough, like you'll notice what the sound is like when something is way too compressed. Like it just sounds tight and kind of like weird. Now I tried to explain that concept in a very simple way without any technical terms, because I hate it when someone, like I ask somebody what something is and they give me a bunch of technical terms that I don't know what that means either, so really you're not doing nothing for me. So yeah, so that's kind of, but I wanted you guys to understand what the hell it is that we're trying to do with compression before you just try to put it on your track and not even know what the hell you're really trying to listen for. So if you take a look at this session here, this blue region up here that I'm highlighting is the compressed track. So this one has all the compression already done, and this one here doesn't have any compression. I want to play you guys both versions, and so that way you guys can somewhat tell the difference, and I'll explain what to listen for also. And then what I want to do afterwards is that I want to grab the uncompressed version, and using only Ableton stock compressor, I want to try to make it sound nicely compressed, and we'll do it together, and I'll explain what I'm doing at the same time. That way you guys could get a feel for what I'm listening for, what knobs I'm turning, what exactly we're trying to do when we compress. All right, so this we're about to hear is the compressed version of the track. Here we go.
Drop all your inhibitions before you end up missing what made you special in the first place.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos. But I'm out for the night, here's a toast for the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shots don't spill. Why you always trying to hunt what you can't quite kill? Like the drunk you become when the pain don't heal. That's an ill mindset to quill over this tempo, but I...
Real quick, just play you guys a little clip of it a cappella without the beat.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos. But I'm out for the night, here's a toast for the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shots don't...
So what we're hearing here is everything sounds tight, the vocal sounds up front. You don't hear the vocal varying too much in volume. Everything sounds kind of clear and up front. So that's what happens when a vocal is nicely compressed. Now I want to play you guys the uncompressed version. Now I will be honest with you guys, this is not fully uncompressed just because when I do record vocals into my computer, I do compress a little bit on the way in. However, this should be sufficiently uncompressed so that we're able to tell and we're able to kind of hear what those things that I want to show you guys. So it should still be a good enough example is what I mean to say. So here we go. Let's play the uncompressed version.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and poke holes. But I'm out for the night, here's a toast. For the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shots don't spill. Why you always trying to hunt what you can't quite kill? Like the drunk you become when the pain don't heal. That's an ill mindset to quail over this tempo. But I ain't about to exit if you ain't get the... My love gon' reign supreme like a...
So I don't know if you guys can hear that, but already you can kind of tell that it's kind of like the volume is going up and down in certain parts, like, and that's just natural. It's like the energy of his voice, where it's like sometimes it's a little bit louder than others, and you can hear kind of the difference. I'm gonna see if I can pinpoint. I think here you'll be able to hear it a little bit more as well.
Wealth gon' come to me like a bonanza. For years I was outstanding but mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled. Living by an outlandish standard, I still answer.
Like you hear when he says living by an outlandish, and you can even see it in the waveform here when he says outlandish. His voice gets really high.
Wealth gon' come to me like a bonanza. For years I was outstanding but mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled. Living by an outlandish standard, I still answer.
Like, but it gets loud, and it's supposed to get loud because obviously he meant to perform it that way. However, when you're listening to it in like as a recording, it sounds a little bit unpleasant because it gets a little too loud. And maybe if you're listening to it in the headphones, you kind of like, you know, what the hell is that? So what the compressor does is that it grabs those really loud moments and it brings them down a little bit. And that's what I'll show you guys. And real quick, I want to jump back to the compressed version so you guys can actually see the compressor at work. So this is the compressor that I'm using, which is a UAD compressor. We're not going to use this one in the example. I just want to show you guys how it kicks in and does work when it gets really loud. So look at what the compressor does when we get to that part where he says outlandish, and you'll see that this little arrow here will kind of go up by a bunch, and that's pretty much the compressor working to try to bring the volume down a little bit and kind of regulate it a bit so it sounds so the volume sounds more similar to the other parts of the vocal.
Wealth gon' come to me like a bonanza. For years I was outstanding but mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled. Living by an outlandish standard.
So when it says outlandish, it went all the way up to here, like where it says like 7. Usually it's like going around. It stays here around the 3-ish level. But then when that outlandish part comes up, it goes -7. So it works harder to lower the volume.
Wealth gon' come to me like a bonanza. For years I was outstanding but mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled. Living by an outlandish standard, I still answer.
Cool, so now that I've explained to you guys more or less what compression does, I hope you guys understand it. Now let's jump in and try to compress this vocal so it sounds good. So before I played you guys the uncompressed vocal just a cappella without the beat, now I'm gonna play it with the beat, and just to show you how, you know, it kind of falls in the background. How the vocals sounds more like it's in the background, and it's not as powerful and as upfront as it needs to be. And yeah, that's what happens when you don't have compression. So I just want you guys to hear what that sounds like for 10-20 seconds.
What made you special in the first place?
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and poke holes. But I'm out for the night, here's a toast. For the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shot.
So you can still kind of hear it, but it's a little bit. The volume is much lower, and it's not just a question of like raise the volume. It's you need to compress it, that way you get everything nice and upfront and clear. So we'll do some of that now. So okay, cool. Well, let's go into audio effects here. Go into compressor, and let's put the compressor on the uncompressed vocal track. And I'll place it over here. I like to place an instance of I like to do my EQing, then put compressor, and then I usually do like some more EQing if I need to, and if I have to add a second compressor, I will. The reason why you add a second compressor is just, I think, for two reasons. Sometimes after you compress a vocal, you bring up certain frequencies and certain things that you might want to then remove with EQing. And then when you remove those things with EQing, I like to just compress again to smoothen things out a little bit. If that doesn't make sense to you at this stage, that's fine. Hopefully for folks who might be a little bit more advanced, they might understand what I'm saying. But yeah, it's just a matter of compression just smooths things out. So sometimes you want to smooth things out, make a couple more changes, and you know, if those changes cause things to become a little less smooth, then you want to kind of just do a little bit more compression just to kind of smoothen out those changes as well. I don't know, I feel like I'm speaking Chinese right now. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So the first thing we need to talk about in terms of compression is threshold. So threshold is you telling the compressor at what point should I kick in and start bringing things down. And so here for example, the green part that you're seeing here where it says threshold, that's where the vocal's getting up to. So as I lower the compression here,
leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghost.
You'll see this GR here shows the amount that the compressor is kicking in.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghost.
So, and in terms of the visual that you're seeing down there, anytime the loudness of the track passes where I have the threshold line, you'll see that the compressor is kicking in.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghost. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos, but I'm...
Now let's say I want to really push the threshold all the way down. You'll see how much more that gain, GR stands for gain reduction. You'll see how much more gain reduction there is.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghost. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos, but I'm out for the night, here's a toast. For the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shots don't spill.
And again, we don't want to overdo ourselves because when the vocal sounds too compressed, it doesn't sound good. So we want to compress it enough so that everything is up front, but you still feel some of the natural kind of up and down of the performance. And up and down is what people mean when they say dynamics. Dynamics is that up and down, you know. So I'm trying to put it in the most basic terms possible. So I've explained threshold, and now I've explained gain reduction. So like I said, gain reduction is just how much reduction is happening. So there you go.
Hanging out the phantom, I get ghost. Halloween tree.
And like I said, anytime it passes that arrow, you see gain reduction kick in because it's reducing. It's work. The compressor is working at that point. Then some of the common things you'll also see on compression is ratio. So what is ratio? So if the ratio is 2:1, every single time the threshold is exceeded by 2 dB, the compressor is only going to output 1 of that dB. So it's going to bring it down to 1 dB. And the higher we increase that ratio, 4:1, 5:1, 6:1, the harder the compressor is working, because if at 2:1, every time it passes by 2 dB, it only outputs 1. At 6:1, every time it passes 6 dB, it works harder, so it only exports 1. So it's pushing the volume even harder. So with ratio, you're telling the compressor how hard you want it to push down the volume of the recording whenever it exceeds that threshold. So with attack and release, which I don't want to talk up too much about because it's a little bit more complicated and requires more training of the ear for you to really tell like the subtle differences. Attack is just how fast do you want the compressor to kick in, and release is how fast do you want it to release. So pretty much once the volume goes down in the performance, do you want it to automatically just kind of turn off versus like ease its way out? So that's kind of what attack and release is. I really want to focus on threshold and ratio, and I'll just keep kind of the attack and release where it is here. Cool. Well, let's test out what we have so far.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghost. Halloween.
And I'll go to this part.
Wealth gonna come to me like a bonanza. For years I was outstanding, but mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled. Living by an outlandish standard. I mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled. Living by an outlandish standard. I still answered. I ran through the blank disc, searching for the cuts to amputate. Well, I got a finesse. I'm a turnstile like a cap and gown, up with the font like a basset hound. I was sent from the boogie, my cologne cup.
Usually for rap performances, for the first compressor, I usually like to put it around 4-to-1 ratio. That's kind of where I like to start, and then I adjust as needed. So here we have 4-to-1, and I'm gonna try to play with the threshold and find a nice sweet spot.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos, but I'm out for the night, here's a toast.
Let me unsolo it.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos, but I'm out for the night, here's a toast. For the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shots don't spill. Why you always trying to hunt what you can't quite kill? Like the drunk you become when the pain don't heal. That's an ill mindset to quill over this tempo, but I ain't about to exit if you ain't get the. My love gon' reign supreme like a Miranda, and wealth gon' come to me like a bonanza. For years I was outstanding but mismanaged. All the panic I mishandled, living by outlandish standards.
My computer feels a little overloaded. It's doing a lot right now. But I haven't even played with it too much, and it already sounds so much more upfront and clear. And like I said, this is just the compressor, the stock Ableton compressor, which is great. And a lot of these DAWs have great stock compressors, so you don't have to get anything fancy. Let's hear this again real quick, and let's see how we feel about it now. And literally, you guys saw it. I didn't do too much here, so I just tried to put it at a threshold where we're getting some gain reduction, not too much, and then whenever it gets too loud, it kind of kicks a little bit more aggressively. I have that ratio at 4-to-1, so which is kind of like where I like to start whenever I'm doing rap vocals. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Leg hanging out the phantom, I get ghosts. Halloween tree, white sheets and po-hos, but I'm out for the night, here's a toast. For the ones who ain't get to raise a glass for they jump. That's a bar for a suicidal kid, but my shots don't spill. Why you always trying to hunt what you can't quite kill? Like the drunk you become when the pain don't heal. That's an ill mindset to quill over this tempo, but I ain't about to exit if you ain't get the. My love gon'.
So yeah, honestly, I didn't do too much, and I'm like, this sounds okay already. And granted, if I was actually doing this mix, I'd kind of listen closer, put my headphones on, and really try to kind of play with these knobs and get it perfect. But even where it is right now, to me, it sounds nice and upfront and where I like it. Like I said, this is kind of a little bit of a cheat because this vocal was already a little compressed on its way into my computer. But you can see, even when we zoom in here, that it does kind of jump up and down a nice amount still. So you see that there are some really quiet parts, and that becomes really evident when we remove the compressor. So here, let's listen again.
Mishandled, living by outlandish standard. I still answer the ran through the blank disc, searching for the cuts to amputate. Boy, I got a finesse. I'm a turnstile like a cap and get.
So you can still kind of hear it go up and down a little bit. But yeah, I really hope that more than just kind of like a technical kind of how to compress vocals, what really the goal of this video was for me is just kind of explain what compression is. And you know, I'm happy to do a part 2 to this where we can kind of focus more on the technical parts and do another example. If you guys are interested in that, hit the comments and I'll certainly find another example that we can go over together. I hope this was really useful. I tried to explain compression in the way I wish it were explained to me when I was learning what the hell compression was and how to mix vocals and how to make stuff sound crisp. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this was useful to you guys. If you learned something new, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps me out a bunch. If this is your first time around here or you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. I make tutorials and other music production type videos, and I would love for you to be a part of this community. So word. Always remember, create with what you have. You don't need much. I wish you guys a lot of happy compressing, and I hope you guys can train your ears to really hear the subtle differences. Compression is a magical thing, and if you understand it well, it's going to make a big difference in on your tracks. But yeah, much love guys. Peace out. Talk soon.